Всім добрий вечір.
On behalf of the brave.
On behalf of every father and every mother.
Wings for freedom. On behalf
Of our warriors. And paves the way for a new history.
Today, 3 years ago, my friend Lisa sent me this video of her sitting on a swing at the edge of a playground in the north of Kyiv. The woods starting just a few hundred meters away. The forest loomed quiet, shadows stretching long as the afternoon dimmed. Suddenly, the wail of an air raid siren cut through the stillness, followed by a deep thud of artillery barrels firing somewhere close by. The ground seemed to vibrate beneath her feet, the sky heavy with the weight of what was coming. Little did I know, at that very moment, in the forests and suburbs surrounding Kyiv, places like Bucha, Irpin, Homostel, her fellow Ukrainians were digging in, preparing to fight for their families, for their friends, and their neighbors, preparing to fight for their freedom. Among them were men like Alexander Markov, a journalist who traded his pen for a rifle, and countless others. Soldiers, volunteers, civilians, who stood shoulder by shoulder, determined to hold the line. Many of them would not live to see the day Kyiv breathed freely again. Weeks later, when the counteroffensive pushed the enemy back and the threat looming over Kyiv was lifted, the city exhaled. But not without scars. It was Ukraine's first decisive punch. The moment the world saw that this invasion could be stopped, that Ukraine would not be broken. Kiev's streets never stayed silent for long. Missiles and air raid alerts would return again and again. But the threat of enemy tanks rolling through the city was gone, for now. And amidst the air raid sirens, the names of the fallen lingered in the air, on memorial boards, in conversations whispered over candlelight dinners. For those who lived through it, like my friend Lisa, the sound of that spring never really disappeared. And for the rest of us, looking back now, we remember them not just as soldiers or defenders, but as people who fought and died so that Kyiv and Ukraine could stand tall and free.
Hello and welcome to Tochnyi Weekly, the show that gets behind the headlines to discuss the Russian invasion of Ukraine. We have an excellent broadcast for you this week. First, we'll be covering the news, as we always do. That'll be followed by our German aid to Ukraine report. That'll be followed by a USAID update with Bionade. That will be followed by just some extra news stuff. And then we will go to Mr. Gash, who will cover some stuff going on with the Russian forces, and I believe drones, but we'll learn soon. And then we'll, of course, at the end have as many questions from you guys as we can field. So if you guys have any questions during the broadcast, feel free on the chat, or if you're watching after the fact in the comments, to ask any questions that you might have, and we'll do our best to answer them. If you could, please hit the like button and subscribe. We've had a few run-ins with YouTube. They don't like us covering the war. It's got violence in it. They don't like that. It's not good for advertisers. So we rely a lot on your guys' goodwill and direct promotion of us and telling YouTube you like it to get by. So thanks so much for all your support. Also check us out on Twitter and BlueSky. That's where we post all our stuff. We had a nice little thread. We'll probably talk about that during the broadcast this week. Also, check out Tochnyi.info. That's our website, and that's where we have a lot of really good research and interactive maps, articles, maps, things like that. So head on over there and check that stuff out when you have time. There's a lot of great technical details and information. And so without any further delay, I'm going to go ahead and jump into the news. These are the main headlines as of March 23rd, 2025. First, we have operations. During the night of March 16th, an energy facility in Russia's Astrakhan region experienced an intense blaze following an incident involving drones. The governor communicated on Telegram that debris from drones triggered the fire at the site, although the exact location within the fuel and power network was not disclosed. Another Telegram account reported that drones linked to the Ukrainian armed forces targeted the city of Yeysk, with residents reporting a series of explosions above the Sea of Azov. A fire continues to rage at an oil pumping station in Krasnodar Krai following a drone strike carried out by Ukrainian forces on March 19th. During efforts to extinguish the blaze, officials explained that a drop in pressure within a burning tank led to an explosion that discharged burning oil, which further exacerbated the problem. Earlier reports from a pro-Kremlin outlet and local authorities indicated that the Kaukazskaya oil pumping station was hit by unmanned aerial vehicles, resulting in significant damage to its infrastructure and an initiation of a fire that spanned a small area before expanding dramatically to cover approximately 10,000 square meters. In the course of addressing the incident, 2 firefighters sustained injuries and about 30 personnel were evacuated as operations at the facility were halted. The station is a vital component of Russia's energy export network, linking a railroad terminal with another major pumping station, and is integrated into the Caspian Pipeline Consortium system that transports up to 6 million metric tons of oil each year. Satellite imagery has shown that extensive damage was inflicted on the ammunition storage sections of the Engels 2 strategic bomber base, located approximately 600 kilometers from Ukraine, following a drone assault attributed to Ukraine earlier this week. The recent strike on this key facility, which accommodates Tu-95 and Tu-160 bombers that are used to launch missile strikes against Ukrainian targets, and this is part of a broader campaign aimed at undermining Russia's military capabilities by targeting infrastructure deep within its territory. This marks the 3rd attack on the facility during the invasion, with previous operations occurring in January. According to Ukrainian security sources, drone pilots working alongside special operations units from the Ukrainian army carried out the attack on the airfield in Russia's Saratov Oblast during the preceding night of the 20th of March. Detailed satellite images revealed that the assault resulted in significant structural damage to warehouses, bunkers, and open storage platforms, with noticeable signs of fire in the surrounding area. Residents in the vicinity reported hearing powerful explosions early on the 20th of March, with reverberations reaching as far as the nearby city of Saratov, located roughly 15 kilometers from the base. Subsequent online footage captured extended sequences of secondary detonations as stored munitions continued to react for several hours after the initial attack. Meanwhile, local authorities described the incident as one of the most intense unmanned aerial vehicle incursions they had ever experienced. Since Tuesday, Russian military sources have indicated that Ukrainian ground forces are launching offensives in Belgorod Oblast, with reports suggesting an effort to penetrate border defenses in Krasnoyarushki district adjacent to Kursk. Ukrainian units recently pulled back from most of the Sudzhansky district in Kursk, which they had maintained since August of 2024, although they do continue to hold some positions along the border. In a counteraction, Russian troops have claimed to secure a small segment of Ukrainian territory near the village of Novenke in Sumy, and heavy clashes have persisted as Russian forces advance. While most Ukrainian officials have largely refrained from commenting on the Belgorod developments, early on there were reports that it was fabricated by Russian sources. This is relatively common. They'll claim there was an attack, and then they'll claim they repelled the attack. But in this case, President Zelensky later confirmed the operation and explained it was a strategic, preemptive move to thwart any attempt by Russia to open new fronts, and noted that Russian forces are currently concentrating along the Sumy border in anticipation of further moves, and that they've also reinforced areas near Kharkiv and towards Zaporizhia. Ukraine's defense ministry has confirmed that a homegrown ground robotic system known as Lyut, or Fury, has been officially added to the military's arsenal and approved for active deployment. Developed as part of a broader initiative to safeguard soldiers using remote-controlled platforms, the Lyut unmanned ground vehicle, which made its debut in 2023, has already seen combat use. In September of 2024, personnel from the UAREG unit of Ukraine's Special Operations Forces employed the Lyut in coordinated maneuvers near Volfine in Russia's Kursk Oblast, working in tandem with FPV drones and mortar systems. During the engagement, enemy forces experienced significant setbacks, with a portion of their troops forced to retreat. While the Lyut sustained damage from handheld anti-tank grenades, they managed to complete the mission and return safely. Despite its compact, almost toy-like exterior, Ukrainian soldiers have described the Lyut as an exceptionally capable machine, akin to a, quote, real monster truck that can easily navigate through terrain and obstacles. The system is versatile, and it can be outfitted with a machine gun to engage hostile infantry and suppress firing positions. Enhancements such as an improved tow hitch have further boosted its utility, making it an important asset for evacuating casualties and transporting supplies like ammunition. Designed for many roles in challenging environments, the Lyut is equipped with surveillance and fire support systems. Its armament includes a 7.62mm machine gun, and it's fitted with advanced detection systems that operate for both day and night, ensuring effective target acquisition from protected locations. The compact design allows it to be stored in a military pickup truck bed, while its silent electric engine, substantial battery life, high ground clearance, and level 4 armor make it well suited for prolonged operations across diverse terrains. The system is remotely operated via a console that enables a single operator to control both its movement and combat functions, with a communication range of up to 2 kilometers under optimal conditions and optical sensors that detect targets at distances of around 1,200 meters. It weighs around 330 kilograms, and it's capable of 72 hours of operations, covering a range of around 20 kilometers and sustaining continuous movement for around 3 hours. Up next, we have economy and aid. Estonia has committed to acquiring military equipment and supplies valued at 100 million euros for Ukraine, encompassing a large range of items such as drones, unmanned ground vehicles, watercraft, and medical equipment, all manufactured by local defense firms. The announcement was conveyed by the Estonian Defense Ministry's press service and noted that specific details, including quantities and timelines for delivery, are being withheld for security reasons. The arrangement builds on an agreement from the previous year in which Estonia pledged to allocate a portion of its GDP annually to support domestic defense industry in contribution to Ukraine's efforts. Feedback from Ukrainian counterparts has reportedly helped streamline the aid process, ensuring that these resources will be provided to support Ukraine's strategic initiatives. President Zelensky confirmed on March 19th that Ukraine received a new delivery of F-16 fighter jets. He indicated that multiple aircraft had been delivered, although he did not specify an exact number of aircraft or an originating country. During the press briefing, he dismissed earlier Russian claims of downing an F-16 and stated that no such incident occurred. This was in response to a claim earlier that day that Russian media reported an F-16 loss in Sumy Oblast, which the Ukrainian Air Force also firmly refuted. Sweden is moving forward with the planned transfer of its Saab 340 AEW and C airborne early warning aircraft to Ukraine, with the delivery schedule tied to the completion of specific modifications to Ukraine's F-16 jets to ensure the systems are compatible. This advanced platform is set to provide Ukraine with enhanced capabilities for aerial radar reconnaissance and the control of fighter operations, which is expected to be particularly valuable during efforts to intercept large-scale Russian missile and drone assaults. Swedish defense officials have clarified that there is no overall delay in the transfer, although certain security-sensitive details, including precise timings and locations, will remain undisclosed. Originally announced in May 2024 as part of a Swedish military aid package, the initiative also included comprehensive support such as pilot training and the preparation of maintenance crews and operators for onboard equipment. Aviation experts have noted that once deployed over Ukraine, these early warning aircraft will introduce additional operational challenges for Ukrainian services, as they are likely to be directly targeted by Russian forces. Ukraine and the Czech Republic announced this week that they are collaborating to develop a group of optical reconnaissance satellites under the Constellation Project, an initiative born from a political agreement reached in October 2022 between the two governments. The collaboration, which is part of a broader defense cluster effort, has already paved the way for a joint space sector project that resulted in the formation of a new satellite monitoring group. A central component of the group is a series of Troll-type satellites, with plans to incorporate additional satellites developed in collaboration between Czech and Ukrainian experts. The first Troll satellite, produced by the Czech company TRL Space, was successfully launched earlier this year and is equipped with integrated hyperspectral cameras featuring a 10-centimeter lens that captures detailed images of the Earth's surface at a resolution finer than 5 meters per pixel. In parallel, work is underway for the DRAC satellite, being developed by members of the Czech Brno space cluster, with TRL Space acting as the main integrator. Designed specifically for the Ukrainian armed forces, the DRAC satellite will be built on a larger platform than the Troll counterpart and will feature a high-resolution camera capable of visible spectrum operations at resolutions better than 1 meter per pixel, although precise technical details, including the weight and other subsystem parameters, remain undisclosed for security reasons. It falls into the microsatellite category with a mass ranging between 50 and 150 kilograms. A strategic cooperation agreement has been finalized between Nammo, a prominent Norwegian manufacturer of artillery ammunition, and a Ukrainian defense enterprise. The deal was announced by Ukraine's Minister of Strategic Industries, Erlend, and builds on already established collaborative efforts supported by both nations and expands the partnership to include a broader array of ammunition, components, and materials. The initiative is seen as a vital step towards enhancing Ukraine's capacity for domestic production of essential munitions. Smetanin expressed his gratitude to Nammo's leadership for their willingness to work with Ukrainian manufacturers and acknowledged high-level support from Norwegian state officials for the project. He also noted that Ukraine began mass production of 155mm ammunition last year, and in August 2024, there were reports indicating that production of 155mm shells using Nammo's technology was set to commence. The Norwegian government has facilitated the transfer of expertise by providing funding under the Nansen program, which enabled the sharing of technology with a Ukrainian partner whose identity remains confidential. Earlier this year, it was reported that Ukraine had produced 2.5 million mortar and artillery shells of various sizes, a development highlighted by the president during his address in the Verkhovna Rada as part of a broader strategy to expand national defense production and deepen cooperation with international allies. On March 19th, during a press briefing, President Zelensky confirmed that Finnish President Alexander Stubb and himself had finalized an agreement to form a coalition focused on enhancing civil protection measures. The new coalition aims to attract further international partners who can help Ukraine construct additional shelters to protect against the frequent aerial strikes by Russia. Ministers from both Finland and Ukraine formalized the agreement that day, with plans to reveal more specific details in the near future. Although information regarding the funding for these shelter projects has not been provided, the initiative was announced shortly after President Zelensky, accompanied by the First Lady, began a state visit to Finland. He stressed that both nations share a clear understanding of the challenges posed by their proximity to Russia and highlighted Finland's long-established expertise in civil defense measures. He also emphasized that Finland's leading role in the coalition is crucial, especially amid ongoing uncertainties about Russia's unwillingness to uphold a partial ceasefire focused on protecting civilians and energy infrastructure. A French marine technology firm is set to supply Ukraine with its tetrapulse electromagnetic sensors designed to identify unexploded munitions and mines in Ukrainian waters. In collaboration with Exail and Geomines, as part of a broader support initiative, the project will enhance underwater safety by deploying a system known as SEDAR, which accurately detects both metallic and non-metallic objects even in low visibility or when concealed underneath the seabed. Technology overcomes the limitations of traditional acoustic, magnometer, and video-based detection methods. An underwater remotely operated vehicle equipped with these sensors has demonstrated the system's comprehensive capabilities, ensuring that critical waterways and port areas remain secure for commerce. The tetrapulse sensors have already proven effective during trials with NATO navies and are expected to contribute significantly to clearing ports and sea routes vital for Ukraine's economic activities. L-Wave, specializing in electromagnetic and bionic sensor solutions, normally provides tools that not only detect underwater hazards but also monitor electromagnetic fields for infrastructure like wind farm cables. Russia's central bank decided to maintain its main interest rate at 21% on Friday, keeping borrowing costs at exceptionally high levels as the nation contends with rapidly rising prices. The economy has been experiencing a steady increase in prices, influenced by a surge in military expenditures and notable labor shortages. For the first time in 2 years, annual inflation climbed above 10% last month, and analysts expect average price rises of around 7 to 8% over the course of this year. The bank acknowledged that while some of the inflationary pressures have slightly subsided, they continue to be significant, and reducing inflation to its 4% target would require keeping monetary conditions tight for an extended period. In a follow-up press briefing, the central bank governor indicated that if the current inflation risks intensify, further increases in the interest rate might be necessary, although she emphasized that the current financial environment is already sufficiently constrained. The decision to hold rates at 21% follows a previous hike to that level in October, a move that had raised concerns among businesses and banks about its potential impact in economic growth, with some experts predicting a surge in corporate bankruptcies. President Vladimir Putin noted this week that defense and security spending in Russia now represents nearly 9% of GDP, with plans for military expenditures to rise by almost 30% in 2025. Several European officials have indicated that during the Trump administration, the United States has significantly reduced its participation in international initiatives designed to close gaps that allow Russia to bypass sanctions. According to sources familiar with the matter, who requested anonymity, U.S. representatives were noticeably absent from multiple working groups formed by allies to address issues such as the procurement of weapon-making components and the enforcement of measures like the G7 price cap on Russian oil. It remains unclear whether this reduced engagement is a deliberate decision by the U.S. or the result of insufficient staffing, as some meetings were attended by lower-level officials with limited authority. Up next, we have international relations. The United States has ceased funding for a Yale University research team that was dedicated to tracking the locations of Ukrainian children who were forcibly displaced or deported to Russia. Since 2014, Russian authorities have been removing children from Ukrainian territories and subjecting them to a state-sponsored program aimed at erasing their cultural identity and re-educating them to assimilate to Russian society through methods that include military training and intensive ideological instruction. Nathaniel Raymond, the head of Yale's Humanitarian Research Laboratory, revealed in an interview that his team lost access to a comprehensive archive of data accumulated over the past 3 years, describing the funding cuts as a severe setback to efforts that document these crimes. The research group was tracking roughly 35,000 children believed to have been taken from Ukraine. A recent study from the lab documented 314 cases of children subjected to what has been characterized as a systematic program of forced adoption and re-education by Russian families. Reports from some sources indicated that access to data on tens of thousands of deported Ukrainian minors might have been compromised, prompting American lawmakers to write Secretary of State Marco Rubio. However, the State Department dismissed the reports as unfounded and asserted that the data remains under its control. Former Ukrainian Deputy Prosecutor General Yundus Mamedov warned that the termination of this funding could significantly hamper investigations into these violations and delay efforts to repatriate affected children, noting that such an act of forced displacement might qualify as that real bad thing that happened in the 1940s under international law. A member of the American Coalition for Ukraine's political committee also expressed deep concern, emphasizing that the Yale team's advanced tools and access to critical intelligence were essential for accurately locating and advocating for these children. According to the Children of War portal, Ukraine has identified around 20,000 displaced minors, with over 1,000 already returned, although most of those repatriated are from occupied areas rather than Russia. American President Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky held a phone conversation on Wednesday following the rejection of a comprehensive ceasefire proposal by Russian President Vladimir Putin. During the call, Trump characterized the discussion as highly constructive and lasting for about an hour, noting that the dialogue focused largely on aligning the demands and requirements of both Ukraine and Russia, a subject he had previously discussed with Putin in a call on Tuesday. At the White House, Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt emphasized the positive nature of the conversation, suggesting that ongoing talks had brought the involved parties closer to achieving peace. Subsequent statements from Secretary of State Marco Rubio and National Security Advisor Mike Waltz revealed that technical teams are set to convene in Saudi Arabia in the coming days to explore ways to expand the ceasefire. It was also noted that Trump had pledged support to help Ukraine secure additional air defense systems and also proposed, without much elaboration, that the United States could assume responsibility for safeguarding Ukrainian power plants by taking control of them. On March 21st, South Korea's Yonhap news agency reported that Sergei Shoigu, the Secretary of Russia's Security Council, has arrived in North Korea, where he is set to engage in talks with leader Kim Jong-un and other officials. North Korea has increasingly established itself as a key military partner to Russia by providing artillery shells, missiles, and even personnel in return for oil and advanced rocket technology. The visit comes on the heels of recent high-level diplomatic exchanges between Moscow and Pyongyang, including a meeting earlier in the month between Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Andrei Rudenko and North Korean Foreign Minister Cho Son-hui, aimed at strengthening political contacts at the highest levels. These discussions occur as North Korea continues to support Russia militarily amid its ongoing war with Ukraine, with estimates suggesting that around 12,000 North Korean troops have been deployed in Russia's Kursk Oblast since last fall to counter Ukraine's cross-border operations initiated in August of 2024. And last item for this week, Vinnytsia District Administrative Court in Ukraine ruled on March 20th that the decision to prevent Ukrainian MP Petro Poroshenko, leader of the European Solidarity Party, from crossing the state border was unlawful, as reported by his lawyer Ihor Holovan. The court found that an earlier decision issued on January 16, 2025 by the head of the Border Guard inspectors at the Ambuki Border Guard Department of the 6th Volyn Detachment was invalid and has now been annulled. Holovan explained that the authority to regulate Poroshenko's border crossing lies with the head of state of the Border Guard Service, a fact that became clear during the court proceedings. According to his account, border guards had been strictly instructed to contact the head of the service immediately whenever Poroshenko appeared at a checkpoint, and if they could not reach the official, the matter was then escalated to Colonel Andrei Prostakov for further decision-making. Poroshenko had earlier claimed during a speech at the Rada in January that his passage had been denied unlawfully while he was en route to Brussels for a meeting with leaders of the European People's Party. In response, the Speaker of the Verkhovna Rada confirmed that Poroshenko had been on an approved business trip, with travel dates set from January 11th to January 15th, and the meeting held on January 13th to 14th. Following those developments, Poroshenko appealed the decision through the courts, and this was the resulting decision. And that's it for the main headlines this week. We will now move to the next segment.
Yeah, that would be me. Hello, guys. As always, I will now present this week's most important news from Germany regarding Ukraine. And boy, do we had a week. We are starting with the latest update on military aid. In the past 4 weeks, Germany has delivered the following to Ukraine: 3 Cheetah Sparks, 30 drone detection sensors, 30 Gerion RCS UGVs, 50 Vector UAVs, 24 FFG MRAPs, 2 mine plows, 2 Wiesent 1MC mine clearing tanks, 2 border protection vehicles, 100 man-portable mine clearing systems, 10,000 rounds of ammunition for the Gepard and Cheetah Sparks, Iris TSL missiles for the Iris TSL M5 units, ammunition for the Leopard 1A5 main-battle tanks, ammunition for the Marder 1F3 IFVs, over 1,400 assault rifles, 8,000 120mm mortar shells, 2,000 122 shells, 5,000 155 shells, 255 infrared binoculars, 556 laser rangefinders, and last but not least, 487,000 first aid kits. The German government also made public that they have pledged another 279 laser rangefinders and 10 anti-drone sensors and jammers. Sadly, the list is a little bit small, but still very much needed assistance. On the same day, the State Border Guard Service of Ukraine announced that Germany has financed and delivered 1,600 protective gabions, which is enough to reinforce a total of 8 kilometers of fortifications along the border, or to better protect critical infrastructure. Moving on to Friday, very good and big news. The Bundestag's Budget Committee has approved approximately 11 billion in additional military assistance for Ukraine between 2025 and 2029. The 11 billion euros is broken down into around 3 billion for additional military support this year, so for 2025, and around 8.2 billion in additional commitment appropriations, which are reserved for military assistance for Ukraine from 2026 to 2029. So basically, these enable Germany to conclude long-term contracts for Ukraine already now. And last but not least, during a visit to the Zaporizhzhia region, the German ambassador to Ukraine, Martin Jäger, has handed over a further 5 Volkswagen Ammerbach pickups worth more than 160,000 euros. They will now be used to respond to emergencies, restore infrastructure, or improve logistics in the region. And that's it for my segment. So back to you, Joseph.
Thank you, Mr. German Aid. We will now go to Bionade for an update on USAID.
All right. Thank you, Joseph. Yeah. You all might remember we talked before about USAID and the ongoing legal battles, especially the last lawsuit was about the USAID funding. And on March the 18th, the federal court blocked the dismantling of USAID, and a significant legal blow to the Trump administration. The U.S. District Judge Theodore Chung issued a preliminary injunction halting the efforts of the Department of Government Efficiency, led by Elon Musk, to dismantle the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID. Judge Chuang ruled that the executive branch's actions likely violated the U.S. Constitution, specifically the principle that only Congress has the authority to create or eliminate federal agencies. As part of the injunction, the court ordered immediate restoration of email and computer access for all USAID employees, including those who have been placed on administrative leave. Also, he ordered a freeze on any further steps to dissolve or impair USAID without explicit congressional approval. The ruling came in response to a lawsuit filed in February 2025 by a coalition of current and former USAID employees, contractors, and foreign aid advocates. They argued that the administration's abrupt moves to dismantle USAID jeopardized critical humanitarian and developmental programs globally and lacked legal standing. On March 20th, 2025, the administration announced the intent to appeal. 2 days after the injunction, the Trump administration publicly announced its intention to appeal the Judge Chuang's ruling, and the administration officials reiterated their commitment to DOGE's broader agenda of reducing the size of government and consolidation of federal agencies, framing the effort as a necessary efficiency measure. However, legal experts predict the appeal process could take months, during which USAID's operations are expected to continue under court protection. On March 21st, 2025, delayed foreign aid payments are to resume. In a related development, reports confirmed that the US administration is preparing to finalize $671 million in foreign aid payments that has been delayed due to broader restructuring efforts and internal disputes over the USAID's future. These payments, which were supposed to be dispersed early in March under court order, had been delayed by nearly 2 weeks. This delay prompted a separate lawsuit filed by foreign aid organizations who accused the administration of unlawfully obstructing vital humanitarian work. The payments are now expected to be completed by March 21, following the mounting legal and public pressure. So as of the current state, USAID remains operational, with its staff reinstated and its programs resuming under the protection afforded by the court order, basically. However, the legal battle is ongoing, with appeal pending, and the agency's long-term future is still uncertain. We will see in the upcoming week how this is continuing, how and if USAID workers, not only in the US, but also abroad, take up the work again. And we will report more on that. Back to you, Joseph.
Thank you, Mr. Bionade. Okay, so the next segment we got is sort of the stuff I have in my notes that didn't make it all the way into the news. I call it extra bits, but it's not, no one has approved me doing that. So take it for what you will. So anyway, I've got several things. I'm just going to kind of go through them rapid fire. Some of them involve people here just because they're like better equipped to answer about it than I am. So here we go. Mr. Germinated to Ukraine, you're first. You're up first, buddy. I got 2 things for you. Number one is, of course, the debt break deal. Let's start with the big news, right? I mean, everything's through now. We don't have to worry about if it passes here or there. It's done. Yeah.
I honestly don't know if the German president Steinmeier has already signed off on anything, because after the Bundesrat, he has signed off. But that's only a formality, so I really don't follow that anymore. Could have happened already. At most, it will be done basically starting Monday. Like I said, only a formality, so should be everything done now. Yeah, that's true.
Great. Okay. So yeah, I think we're very pleased to report that. It's something we've been talking about for a long time. It's an absolutely necessary component of Europe taking its security seriously going forward. And, kudos to Germany for, it was no small feat. It was a huge political issue in Germany that was overcome to do this. So it's, big news and a big deal. It took it's kind of a long process. So I think it hasn't been in the news as prominently as it probably should be, but it's really big news. So now that we've covered that, the next item I have for you is the confiscation of a Shadow Fleet tanker. The news was pretty sparse in the English-speaking press, so I just wanted you to cover everything that was said in the German press, because I assume they're going to know better than us. So go ahead.
Yeah, so as far as I know, the tanker, the Shadow Fleet tanker, went in stranded or anchored off the coast of Rügen since, I believe, mid-January. According to Spiegel, it has now been confiscated along with the 100,000 tons of crude oil, which are worth, I believe, something around 40 million euros. And the ship and the crude oil will now be transferred to German ownership. As far as I know, the measures are still ongoing. It's not finished yet. The spokesperson of the ministry responsible for it didn't want to confirm the reports on Friday. So yeah, I think it will happen. I mean, the reporting was there. He didn't deny the reporting. He just didn't want to confirm it. So yeah, I think that's the current standing.
Okay, so we'll keep everyone posted if we learn anything else about the Shadow Fleet tanker that was seized by Germany. And okay, so up next is Mr. Erlend. Hello, sir. So this week in Norway, we had a visit from President Zelensky, and I mentioned in the news report some NAMO stuff, but maybe I'll leave it to you if I missed anything. So if you want to cover all that stuff, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, there were some really important bilateral meetings taking place during Zelensky's visit. And one of the kind of interesting pieces of information that came out was because a journalist at the Norwegian paper Nettavisen, which is a web-based outlet, he got an interview with Commission, and he said that a relatively important news. So the Nammo corporation or license production of 155 millimeter artillery shells in Ukraine has been announced a while ago. The information we had previously was that production was going to start in 2026, but during this interview, Commission said that they will start this year. So that's a speed up of the whole process. I think that's maybe connected with the fact that Norway has increased the funding for this project, so that's good. There was another piece of info that was important as well. It's not necessarily related to Norway, but Commission said that the so-called Long Neptune has been tested twice, not once. Once was a target in Crimea, and then another one was a suspected Long Neptune strike already. It was the oil refinery. I don't remember the name right now.
Tuase.
Yeah, so that's right. So yeah, that's what I had.
Yeah, thanks, Erlend. So that was a good update. You know, it seemed like Zelensky had a nice tour of Norway and Finland, and it seemed like he was in good spirits. Any other observations? Yeah.
Oh yeah, like the one happy thing I can report just from friends that were in the parliament when he was there and actually met Zelensky said that they have never seen him so happy. So he came from a meeting with government representatives first, as you reported in the news report. Then he came to the parliament, and he was notably happy and in good spirit. I don't know what that means, but maybe the government told him something good about the additional aid.
Yeah, we definitely can't say that objectively, but it seems to imply like the meetings went well, I would assume. Yeah. So that's good
Definitely.
news. Good. So yeah, that's Norway covered. So we got a few other things. I guess Colby, I'll let you feel this a bit, just because we can go on one of your famous rants about how Europe needs to get serious. But as far as I understand, Italy and Spain didn't agree to a $40 billion funding package for Ukraine from the EU. Is that accurate, or did I miss something?
Well, I think the list is longer than Italy and Spain. France certainly should be noted there, and certainly there are others as well that are sort of probably behind the scenes with the same views but aren't taking the public criticism for that. But whereas Germany has amended their constitution to remove this impediment to allow them more flexibility to deficit spend on their national defense requirements, which includes aid to Ukraine as well. The EU still has not done this because the EU as a whole has its own rules on how much countries can deficit spend, how much public debt they can accrue, and this is preventing countries, or at least some countries are using this excuse for why they can't give more support to Ukraine, because their budgets are already maxed out and they are not willing to either raise taxes or cut spending elsewhere. So they're saying, well, I mean, we need to be able to borrow more money so that we can increase our own defense spending and or provide more support to Ukraine. But here we are 3 years into the war, and it has still not happened that the EU has been able to come to an agreement on this question. And it doesn't seem likely that such an agreement is forthcoming. I know that seemed like there was a little bit of movement a while ago about how they were going to get this done. And there was talk about Hungary somehow being the main obstacle to this. But in reality, that's turned out not to be true at all. Setting aside what Hungary may or may not do, we have major European economies that are not seemingly on board with any of these efforts to get more aid to Ukraine. I don't know, maybe the Europeans, want to say more about that. But, from my perspective, it's just basically the same thing that we've all become, at least us in North America, have become very frustrated with the EU about, is that there's just a lot of talk about things. They've released this white paper that's calling for 800 billion in additional spending, but there's no indication that this is actually going to happen. They've come out with a recommendation, they've come out with what they want to do, but the actual mechanics of implementing that, there seems to be very little progress on that, and there are a lot of roadblocks being thrown up by different members. So I don't know what the way forward is. I don't know how they're going to be able to reconcile all the different concerns that different countries seem to have about adopting this plan. I'm personally not optimistic, but maybe other members of the panel have a different perspective about how this might actually happen.
Yeah, if any of the Europeans care to comment, I'll call Colby off if you guys fix all this. That's our agreement. But if any of the Europeans want to comment, feel free.
No, I think Colby already summarized it very well, right? From the media reports, it seems like that France and Italy are the main countries taking the blame for what is happening, reducing the planned 40 billion to voluntary 5 billion, and now even trying to block that. Although I really don't understand why somebody would want to block voluntarily aid, right? It's not like they have to pay for anything. They're still trying to block it for whatever reason. Nothing else to say, really.
Okay, anyone else?
Yeah, I just want to say that, some of these countries, notably, I think in Italy, the sentiment is that there's really a big hope that this war just disappears and they don't need to think about it anymore. If you read the Italian media, it's overwhelmed by articles which basically insinuates that Trump is about to make peace in Ukraine, and that the only thing that should be done now is to support that effort. And the Rearm Europe package, and then subsequently 40 billion and then now 5 billion package to Ukraine is being seen in Italy, at least, as a prolongation of the war. That if this is passed, then the war will last for longer, and then we might provoke the ugly bear in Russia, or it's just going to be bad for the economy in Europe, and especially in Italy, because they think that Russia is so important for them, which it's not. Like, it's very not important for Italy. So it's ridiculous. And I fear that unless you get Italy to back this, you won't get Spain, Portugal, and France. But they're very happy with this, unfortunately.
Would you agree, Erlend? I think I was kind of reading, I'm definitely not someone who follows this closely, but like Meloni's tone shifted a little bit this week. Like, she's been pretty, I don't want to say like super pro-Ukraine, but she's been like pro-Ukraine enough rhetorically, maybe not materially. And her tone shifted a bit this week, or no?
A little bit, yeah. She's pushing so she wants to be some sort of bridge builder between Europe and the new US situation. I don't know what stake she has in the relations, transatlantic relations right now. If you look at what Italy has contributed to defense in Europe, Trump should be all over Italy. There's no materializing plans of reaching 2%. You can just forget about the 3 or 5% which Trump is talking about, right? So I don't understand really why she believes she can be that bridge builder. Maybe because she's from a far right environment and has supporters on the far right. In general, the opinion in Italy is not very positive towards Ukraine. Unfortunately, there are lots of very strong supporters, but the majority of the opinion is either there should be peace, no war, or very pro-Russian and anti-Ukrainian. I think she's struggling because of the support she needs from the government as well. Remember that all the three parties, I'm not saying Meloni, but the three parties in government have traditionally been very pro-Russian. Someone can say it's a kind of a miracle that she's been managing to keep the support for Ukraine for this long, and I'm truly grateful for that, because it could have been a big problem for the EU. But right now, I don't think she probably doesn't feel like she has the political capital to push this thing through. It gets a lot of opposition in Italy. The whole rearmament thing is very unpopular.
Yeah, I think that's all good analysis. So thanks, Erlend, for that. Yeah, so just a couple other things. So Putin had a business talk this week. Not much was covered. I guess I'll just nothing really new. Basically, he said the sanctions are going to be on us for a long time. We shouldn't expect them to go anywhere anytime soon. He was basically talking to his the oligarchs, right? That's who he's talking to. It's a big expensive dinner where all the oligarchs are gathered in a room, and he's explaining to them what's going on. And he's basically saying there are some foreign companies who want to come back, which I don't think is super true, but you get the idea. He's trying to talk to them. And that he said, you're going to be protected, basically. We're going to make sure that any market share that was lost, Russian businesses will keep. And he said, I'm worried about the economy cooling down too much, so I'm not going to let the economy cool down. I'm not going to let what he's implying there is the central bank, I'm not going to let them raise interest rates, because that's what they've been advocating. You might say the most experienced economists in Russia, the ones who have been managing their economy pretty well through this whole thing, have been advocating to raise the interest rate for some time. And the industrialist class, the oligarchs, have been basically saying no, you can't do that. That'll screw us. So that's kind of been the issue. And I would say that based on these remarks, the issue is still pretty decisively in the realm of he's going to support the war industry, basically, over what the economists are saying. That's pretty much it. He basically just kind of said, we're not going to count on the international system to work with us anytime soon. So we're going to brace for the long. And then there was what I'm calling just Ukrainian politics I don't want to talk about. That's kind of a segment I've had a few times, but I reported on it a little bit in the news. I just wanted to give a little bit more context there. Poroshenko, if you guys remember last week, I mentioned that there's been some pretty strong evidence that members of the Trump administration or people aligned with Trump at least, are talking to opposition members of the Ukrainian government, right? Influential members that are opposed to the current government. And last week, I was pretty adamant that it didn't work very well, because a lot of the politicians who they approached made public statements that were in favor of Zelensky. So now the little update with that is kind of just this week, Poroshenko made some public statements that were kind of against Zelensky. He basically said, I don't really like what Zelensky's doing. He's turned into a dictator. I could work with Trump if you put me in power. Or I don't know if he said that exactly, but basically that we should work with Trump better and stuff like that. We should do things a different way, and I don't like Zelensky, and he's being that seems to be caused by two things. One thing I already mentioned, that they tried to restrict his movement out of the country, which a court ruled was kind of unjust. So again, I'm the furthest person to have an opinion in Ukrainian politics. I'm not someone super familiar with it, but I would just say that the court said that they came down on him too hard on the border thing. So that seems to provide some substance to what he's saying about them being a little too hard on him. And then the other thing was that they charged him with sanctions, basically, that are threatening to take most of his businesses and money and property. So he's pretty I would say bothered by those sanctions and stuff. And it seems like he's kind of making noise for that reason. It's kind of the broadest analysis of it. Bionade, did you want to say something? Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So basically in the sanctions, it was an asset freeze. So all of Poroshenko's assets and financial holdings within Ukraine have been frozen. This means he cannot access or use his bank accounts, properties, or business interests domestically. And as you know, Poroshenko has a couple of business ventures in Ukraine and internationally. As for example, Roshen, which is making chocolate, and you basically find in every Ukrainian city. The other thing they did is restrictions on financial transactions. Poroshenko is banned from conducting financial transactions, including the transfer of funds and other assets, both within Ukraine and internationally, where Ukrainian jurisdiction applies. Then they put a ban on capital withdrawal. So basically he's prohibited from withdrawing capital or moving any assets out of Ukraine. And then they put on more economic restrictions on him, limiting his ability to engage in certain business activities and contracts within Ukraine, particularly these involving state-owned enterprises, sectors deemed critical to national security.
And Bionade, again, like I certainly don't have an opinion on this. I don't know if you do, but like, do we know why they did? Is there like any foundation?
So the official reason cited for these sanctions was alleged involvement in actions that undermine Ukraine's national security and sovereignty, with some government sources accusing Poroshenko of indirectly aiding Russian interests. However, Poroshenko strongly denies accusations, calling the sanctions politically motivated and unconstitutional, framing them as an attempt to silence the opposition.
Okay, so nothing specific, but just that.
Yeah, basically, it's under the guise, and this is why it's so outrageous, and why also people from inside of the European leadership called this out, and like there were like some people in the European Parliament who called this out. They basically put him on a list with pro-Russian oligarchs, right? Put more or less almost the same sanctions on him. Didn't arrest him, but like put him on this kind of lists, and
Right. So I guess you might be able to say that, like, from an outside perspective, it looks kind of excessive, even if we don't know what the intention the government has.
Absolutely. To everyone I spoke about this, who is like those people from Ukrainian politics, or like something involved. Many people said like it's really excessive. I personally, I think last week even when you talked about it last week, the week before, Poroshenko even said when Trump was approaching them, he was one of the people who said basically, no, we're
He was.
not having votes anytime soon. But I don't think. I mean, this is the thing, right? Like he said in the Constitution, as it is written, there will not be a vote soon after the war. That what was this about? And this was, I don't know if it was aiding Zelensky or if it was just like honoring the Constitution, right? Probably, in my opinion, this is a punch back from Poroshenko.
Yeah. So I think, like, in summary, if we could wrap it all up, right? Like, the government has done a really good job so far of being careful and united when it comes to dealing with outside governments and meddling in their internal affairs, like while this war is going on, which is really good. That's helped them a lot. And I think these types of like coming down on this politician pretty hard like this is causing maybe some dissent that might cause a problem.
We have to remember it's not only one politician, right? It's the former president. It's a direct predecessor of Zelensky.
Yeah, thank you. That's a good point. Yeah. So just like that, I think speaks to just kind of a broader issue that, like, if Ukraine isn't careful, that there are outside forces that are looking to exploit any cracks that might show. So,
yeah,
you know, I'm not trying to like report on this for political reasons so much as just from that angle. I think it's important.
Absolutely.
Anything else you want to say before we wrap that up?
Yeah, that makes a point that Poroshenko is well connected, and his party, his political party, is a party of the called European Unity. I think they also like work in some organizations together and are quite connected already with Europe, because they also wanted to work with Europe, right? Like was the president the first one who really was like acting in this kind of interest after the revolution. So yeah, here we are.
Yeah. So, you know, I encourage people to look into sources that are more knowledgeable than me on the matter if you want to have a more nuanced opinion about it. But I did my best to help you guys understand, like, kind of from like the bottom line in terms of what it might mean in terms of what's going on with the invasion. Okay. So that I think covers, I got a couple more. Oh, the last thing I'll just mention is I mentioned there was a U.S. statement in a few days they're going to meet. they clarified, or various sources have clarified, the Russians, I believe also the Ukrainians, and definitely the US, that the 24th in Saudi Arabia. So I guess tomorrow for pretty much everyone. Yeah, it'll start on the 24th. So that is pretty much it for all the extra news. Does anyone have any comments on all that stuff before we move on? Like wrapping up stuff?
Nope.
Thanks to everyone who watches after the fact. You're welcome to just say anything you like in the comments. We'll do our best to take your feedback on board. So thanks again for all that everyone does around here. And we'll see you next week at 2100 Kyiv time Sunday. Slava Ukraini.
Slava.
On behalf of the brave.